Welcome back to the American Legion Post 214 channel. Today we have with us Peter Butchart with the American Legion Post 214. Peter is a Marine, served I believe during the Vietnam War, and he's going to be talking to us about some of the weapons that the Germans used against the Allies during World War II. So Peter, if you would, tell us about some of these weapons you have behind us there.
Okay, let me explain why I picked the German weapons. If you visit our museum, you'll see weapons from, of course, the United States, Japan, Russia, and many, many other countries. And I picked the Germans because they were the best weapons maker during World War II. They made some magnificent weapons. Unfortunately, it cost the lives of too many of our allies, Americans and British and others. But I want to tell you a few things about some of the German weapons. I'll start with the small ones. The German Luger is called a P08. And the Germans always, the model numbers were equal the year that they were adopted. P08. This was in 1908. They introduced this weapon, and it is a very, very good semi-automatic weapon. Now, it was used also during World War I, during World War II, and some of the countries today use the Luger. It's that good. Hand grenade. The Germans called this their hand grenade, and the GIs called it a potato masher because it looked like what you used to mash potatoes, but it was a concussion grenade instead of a fragmentation grenade. And when it exploded, it created a concussion that would blow out your ears and blow out your eyes and did major damage. Whereas the American, the grenade that we used was fragmentation, and it would rip your skin apart. The quest for all militaries has been to have an inexpensive to make weapon that was good. And the Germans were excellent at this. They started out with an MG, or a machine pistol, an MP38, which we have here in our museum. This is an MP40. It fires the Luger bullet, 9mm. It is a very serviceable weapon, and for any military weapon to be good on the battlefield, it has to operate dirty because the battlefields are dirty. So this would operate under extreme conditions. It was also light, and they used it for paratroopers, and many Americans would pick up the MP40 and use it against the Germans themselves. From the MP40, let's talk about the machine guns. Germans made two of the best, we call them light machine guns. This is an MP38. And like I said, they name it by the year that they adopted. The MG34, I think I misspoke. MG34 was adopted, of course, in 1934. It's a blowback, or recoil operated. It would fire 850 rounds a minute, which is pretty accurate and pretty good. It would all operate dirty, and when the barrel became so hot, they had gloves that would protect their hands, and they could snatch the barrel off and put a fresh barrel on very, very quickly. This particular one is on the tripod, and of course it could be carried as an infantry weapon with the bipod, or with a 3 to 4 man crew on the tripod, and it would we had ammo carriers, because if you're going to fire 850 rounds a minute, you need a lot of ammo. So we did. Now, in addition to the light machine gun, they also had a couple of other machine guns. One of them is a MADSON, which was an earlier weapon, very crude, but it operated. And problem with any machine gun, if you use a magazine fed, you have to change magazines very quickly, and this one was easier to carry than the MG34, but it was accurate. All of these weapons carried the 8mm Mauser round. In our museum, we do have Mauser rifles that the Germans used in World War I and World War II. Bolt action, okay? Now, when Mussolini joined the Axis, the bad group during World War II, they made a pretty nice weapon called a BREDA, B-R-E-D-A. And this particular one was used by both the Italian Army and the German Army. It fired a magazine that cycled through, and it would fire them pretty fast. Here again, 8mm. This particular one was quite heavy. It carried a lot more, took a lot more men to carry them around than the MG34 by itself. They were just really too heavy for a army that's on the move. Now the next weapon that we want to look at was the epitome of the German engineering. After the MG34, they developed a bolt with rollers, which made it slide easier. And if we can look over here, this is an MG42 again, introduced and adopted in 1942. You probably heard this one called Hitler's Zipper, because it fired so fast that you couldn't hear the individual bullets. It made a zzz sound when it came. The MG42 fired 1,250 rounds a minute. Awesome. On D-Day, when our troops hit the beach, they faced multiple MG42s and MG34s, and it was a bloodbath for the Americans. I wonder sometimes if we were successful because they ran out of ammunition, but we lost about 5,000 men that day, and awful, awful situation. Now, we have many, many interesting weapons in the Cecil D. Buchanan Museum of Military History. And I would invite anyone who has an interest in the military, any of our wars, because we have items from the Revolution up to the current Gulf Wars, and we're still looking for more artifacts. Anyone who has some artifacts they would like to have on display, we would very much like to have them. We would welcome them. But we have weapons from all of the wars up to the one that we have now. And please come in, take a look. If you have some artifacts that you'd love to give us, wonderful. If you just want to come and look and ask some questions, we will do our best to answer them. And I thank you very much for viewing this video.